Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. This one's going to be interesting in the fact that it's very different than the type of content that I typically put out, and it's sort of on a totally different subject. And I know that not many people are going to watch this because most people subscribe just for dropshipping content, and I understand that. But if you're here, it means you understand that there's something going on a deeper level in the world of entrepreneurship, and you want to understand more, and you don't want to just, have, these little ventures here and there. You want to be truly an entrepreneur. You want to understand business at its core, and you want to master yourself and master more than just a dropshipping store. So this video is probably going to be titled something like Why Teenage Entrepreneurs Fail, and I want to sort of refine that title before we get into the video. I feel like I should primarily address that, it's not just teenagers, it's most entrepreneurs, but teenagers are primarily affected by this because of sort of the social landscape of entrepreneurship as it is currently. So let me start with this. Back in the industrial age, an entrepreneur was defined as, someone with millions of dollars to his name and, owned multiple different factories, and, he bought and sold businesses, and he essentially would do anything he could for profit, which is really where we're at as well. Entrepreneurship is such. And so it's sort of been redefined. Entrepreneurs typically come with personal brands, right? And they typically come with this sort of presence, especially online. And it forces people to feel like they're not an entrepreneur if they don't have that presence online. Reality is, you look at a lot of these big figures, people with large personal brands, maybe on social media, that post consistently and have large followings. Well, if you look at the actual numbers, the actual sales that they have in the background, it's kind of weak and it's kind of lame. A lot of these personal brands don't really know how to capitalize, and just because you have a following and audience doesn't really mean you're a good entrepreneur. But that's what we've begun to think as teenagers. A lot of us sort of view large personal brands as the ultimate goal. So in a landscape right now where entrepreneurship is sort of flashy, and entrepreneurship isn't really it's cool for a lot of people, and I'm looking forward to when it's no longer cool again. I'm really looking forward to when it's no longer the thing, at least the flashy side of it. I love having more actual entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurship, the flashy side being cool, it's just a horrible thing for our culture. It's a horrible thing for the marketplace. It's a horrible thing for business. And essentially, the reason why I'm saying all these things and the way that this all ties together, the reason primarily that a teenage entrepreneur will end up failing is two things. One is they have an improper perception of what entrepreneurship looks like. They see the highlights of what a lot of other entrepreneurs go through, right? Which is, the nice cars and the traveling and, money in the bank and, it's freedom. And a lot of teenagers are attracted to that, and they see that. What they don't see is the years of hard work and grind to get to that point, right? And that's a very cliche thing to say, but it's truth, right? It's truth. People do not look at people don't reveal their own backstage, right? People are comparing their backstage to somebody else's highlights, And so what happens is, we begin to compare ourselves, and we begin to almost feel as if, we're not an entrepreneur. Even if you're making six figures, if you're running an online business of any kind and you're ranking in money of any kind, you're an entrepreneur. And frankly, I respect you more than people who just build a personal brand just so they can, sort of fuel their ego, And that brings me to my second point. Not only, do we have an improper perception of entrepreneurship, but ego is involved. For a lot of teenagers, ego is involved, and ego is a primary driver. If I could recommend a book to you, it would be Ego is the Enemy, right? By, I think, Ryan Holiday. I listened to the audiobook recently, and it was just an incredible read, and it showed me that, even insecurity is an ego-driven thing, right? And it's just a really neat book. And essentially, it talks about how ego is a limiting thing. Many people have thrived within ego in our culture today, especially because it's a very personal brand-driven culture, and people are attracted to people who have ego. Maybe like Kanye West is a good example of that. There's many people with large followings of people that also have egos, and it's just this ego cycle, and it forces people to make decisions based on their own ego and wanting to look cool, right? And so what happens with ego is it brings entitlement. And entitlement is the last thing that an entrepreneur needs, because the marketplace has a really healthy habit of only giving money to those who truly deserve it, right? Unless it's coming from their parents or some sort of a government grant for large businesses, the marketplace only gives money to those who deserve it. End of story, period, And so there's no excuse for that. So if somebody feels like they are broke and they're entitled to more money, and that's what a lot of these teenage entrepreneurs do, is they're like, oh, I'm hustling, I'm working all day, and I'm not making any money. Well, no, it's because you're not bringing any value to anybody. You're not bringing any value to the marketplace. I don't care how long you work on your Shopify store. If you don't start actually running ads to the proper audience and selling your products for a reasonable price, then you're not going to get any sales. You could build a store for 6 years, but if you don't actually sell anything and you don't actually bring any value to the marketplace, then nobody gives a rip, right? And so don't let your work ethic be ego-driven. Let your work ethic be long-term driven, right? Don't let your work ethic be a me thing. Let it be an others thing, right? And so I've made a goal for myself of the money that I make, some things that I want to do, some philanthropy that I want to do in the future, right? Not only that, but my business is an other-oriented thing. I want to serve you guys. I want to serve my customers, right? I want to help people and make money along the way, right? And once you shift from making money to helping people and allowing the money to flow, you'll actually make a whole lot more money. So ego will halt you. Ego will destroy you, and it will keep you from succeeding in almost anything you ever try to do, because ego makes it about you. As much as you'd like to say it's about others, it's typically about you. And a lot of people struggle with this, and I personally struggle with this quite a bit on occasion, right? I'll have days where I feel like it's literally, I'll have a thought, I'm like, man, I deserve a lot more than this. Like, I'm working my tail off. Then I remember, wait, hold up. It's not about me, number one. Number two, I would have that $100,000 check if I actually earned it. If I actually brought that level of value, then I'd have it in my pocket. And there's no excuse to not have that in my pocket at this time, right? It's just the fact that I haven't worked and I haven't brought that level of value yet. So that is why a majority of teenage entrepreneurs fail, is they make it about themselves. It's ego-driven, right? And it keeps them from having a long-term vision. The ego thing is the biggest one. Out of the two things, the ego thing is the biggest thing, because a lot of kids just want to be a baller, right? And if you just want to be a baller, cool, good for you, I'm excited for you, but that's a short-term thing, and it's not going to last past your 30s. If you have a family and get kids, I mean, let's think about this. You can't be a baller and also have a family. You can't merge the lifestyles, right? It's one or the other, and there's pros and cons to both. So that's sort of a bit of a joke, but you know, it's true. You have to not make it about yourself. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope I brought you some value, and if I did, leave a like down below and subscribe, because I'll see you guys on a more consistent basis. Hopefully the YouTube uploads have been kind of stunted a little bit because I've been working on the back end of things and working on all kinds of other business sort of ventures, but I love this channel and I love bringing you guys value, and I feel like it's a great place for me to connect with some like-minded people. So I'm excited to continue uploading and serving you guys well, and I'll see you in the next one.